Hi, folks. This is Rebecca Lane with the School of Arts and Entertainment and Design. This is our radio show, Embracing the Bold, where you get to learn all about the incredible humans that make up the School of Arts, Entertainment, and Design at Valencia College. And today on our show, we have Dominic DiPaolo, program chair for the digital media program, and we have our student.
Hi, I'm Nikko. I'm a digital media student with a specialization in video production.
And that's who we have today. And just before we get started, I would like to let you know we have some fantastic season events coming up. The very first thing I'd like you to know about is we have the reading. Well, first of all, we have Vanishing Florida. That is a show in the Anita Wooten Gallery, and that is going to be available to see through the 22nd of October. And these are incredible photographs of Florida, the Florida landscape, buildings that have been forgotten, some buildings that have been forgotten over time, so you get to see a different perspective from one year to the next. After that, we are opening on October 21st and 22nd. We have our second installment in our reading series, and that is The Artist and the Scientist. It's a completely new musical that has been workshopped at the Eugene O'Neill Play Center, but we are going to workshop it right here with our students, and we will be doing audience input and feedback. It's going to be a really fabulous experience. Looking forward to that. And then on October 27th, we open our very first student-crafted haunted house right here in the Valencia College Black Box. So we look forward to seeing you at all of these events, and the really good news is that all of these events are completely free. So please come out and see these and see the fantastic work that Valencia College students are creating. And on that note, I would like to introduce, we have two folks here today. So first, I'm going to ask Dominic to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about the digital media program, and then we'll carry on from there.
So my name is Dominic DiPaolo. I'm the program chair and professor of digital media at Valencia College. Our program primarily serves AS degree seeking students. We have AS degree tracks in video production and motion graphics. Typically, it takes 2 years to complete our program, and depending on your specialization, you are learning everything you can do about video production, video editing, or motion design and motion graphics, which a lot of people aren't familiar with, but it's basically any type of animation for the internet, social media, and TV, like titles and interviews and stuff like that.
That's amazing. Yeah. So what do you need to know going into this program?
So students that come into our first class, Intro to Digital Media, are really just expected to know how to use a computer. They've used email before. They can save files to a USB stick, general computer literacy skills. Maybe you've used Microsoft Paint or Photoshop or a free alternative, and you want to learn how to be a little bit more creative with the computer. All of our first semester classes are designed to get you comfortable in the workspace, get the foundational skills before we move on to the more advanced skills in future semesters.
And when they're done, what kinds of jobs do they tend to pursue?
So it's really kind of a jack of all trades creative degree. So students can pursue all kinds of careers in the creative space. We've had students go on to do live event video at the theme parks, video editing, video production. We've had students work at the local news stations. We have students who are working as motion designers for companies. One of our most recent successful grads is a motion designer for Bang Energy, so he animates Bang Energy drinks all day. It's really kind of if you want to do it, you can pursue it skill set, and you just need to develop the portfolio to pursue that part of the creative industry.
That sounds awesome. Now, do a lot of our students go directly into the workforce, or do they transfer to schools like UCF and four-year degree programs?
I'd say it's like a 50-50 mix. A lot of students want to go to UCF because of the Direct Connect program Valencia has. Our program does not Direct Connect, but you can direct connect to UCF with just a general bachelor's degree seeking student. And then students that complete the AS degree and go into the workforce, most of them want to freelance. So they are working independently as either contractors or a per job basis for other companies, and seeking out clients on their own, almost like a small business mindset.
That sounds great. So can you tell me a little bit, say your name again, and tell me a little bit about how you found this program?
Hi, I'm Nikko Olavvaria. I've kind of known about Valencia since I was very young, because both of my older sisters had been to Valencia, so I was already aware of Valencia as, a college, and I knew of their digital media program, but I hadn't really considered, enrolling in the program until I would get my feet wet in some of the classes and the general studies, because I'd always been interested in digital media, video production, editing, as long as I can remember, but I hadn't considered seriously pursuing it until I would get my feet wet with the programs. And that's kind of what I did after, because I think I took one of your classes first, because I'm someone who, even when I was younger, I looked into how productions work, behind the scenes, things like that. So, but I had never got hands-on with an Adobe program. The first time I did that was for a class here. And now I can say, I'm pretty proficient in understanding the capabilities of the programs, and I've kind of nailed down sort of an idea of what I want to do. But I think the program really helps out with getting experience in so many fields, especially as you get to more of the advanced classes. You're doing hands-on work with so many things and so much equipment that you really know, oh, if you wanted to do this, you could. Like you were saying, it's a very jack of all trades thing, because you could just choose what you're interested in and use the knowledge that you gain to pursue whatever you want to do. Because I sort of want to be a video editor, but I know all my weaknesses are in capturing live video. And when I say live video, I don't mean live stream, but using a camera. So that's what I focused on in the program. That's really helped me to understand what I can use in the edit when I go to edit stuff.
So when you talk about taking live video, and then when you talk about editing, so you say one of your weaknesses is live video. What do you mean when you say that?
Understanding how the camera works, how lighting works. Lighting was a huge thing for me. Just learning how to control light to make things look appeasing in the camera.
So what did you learn? What struck you?
What struck me is the correct lens choice, framing, to really understand how people feel when they watch something on their screen.
So what is the correct lens choice? How do you frame things?
I mean, there's no correct lens choice, but just learning what, I guess if we're talking about lens choice, what lens choice and framing size evokes what emotion, and what emotion that the viewer gets from that. That's really what I'm trying to understand and what I like to explore, rather than just pacing in an edit. I'm speaking broadly, or not broadly, but I'm speaking specifically in editing terms, because that's what I'm used to. But whenever we watch something, things are always structured or designed in a specific way to evoke a specific emotion. So when I'm learning how those things are done and I can enact those myself, it gives me a better understanding when I'm putting it all together later in the edit, how to pace those things. So
do you have a favorite framing or lens choice right now? Is there something where you're when I use this framing, it just makes me happy in my soul?
Not a specific framing choice, but I like using shallow depth of focus, because I think it helps highlight a subject or individual with whatever they're going through, because I think that effect of just having a shallow depth of focus really helps highlight the subject. So I don't know about a specific lens choice, because it depends on the shot. You're always choosing a different lens, experimenting. If I had to choose something maybe I like wider lenses, a little wider than the standard, because you really feel, you get a sense of all the features on someone's face, or you get the sense of a dimension of an object, rather than using a telephoto lens, which is it can feel super distant when you're looking at something. Everything's super flat, and it doesn't have character. So maybe wider lenses.
If we're talking like famous directors or movie genres, the Coen brothers are really well known for using wide angle lenses up close to get really big, detailed portraits of their characters. So you really feel like the character comes alive on screen versus something like a Marvel movie where it's just like the action figures are in their position on screen, you know?
Yeah. It seems like you're sort of like just watching it happen. And there's nothing like wrong with that sense in like I guess earlier Marvel movies. We can get into like later Marvel movies and how they choose to set up their lighting and how it doesn't have much character, I feel like, but that's a whole other discussion.
Well, and I mean that's part of it, right? Is going through and seeing what media you're drawn to.
Yeah, we talk about that in class. I don't teach any of the video production classes, but all of our faculty that do are really good at relating the content of the lesson to modern media. So they'll pull something like a Super Bowl commercial or the latest Netflix show and put it on screen in class and say, okay, let's look at this. What's the lighting in this shot? Where was the camera? Who did this? And then the students will kind of try to figure it out together and understand how things are being made. And we've had guest speakers come in and talk about what they do in production workflow. We try to really pull from industry knowledge and experience. And even though we are like a traditional academic program, unlike the film program, which is more hands-on workshop style.
Okay. So even though you're more traditional academic, you're still bringing in people from the industry.
Yeah.
And you're still talking to folks about how to make stuff. That's great. Okay, so you said so Nikko, you said that you were not as good at editing or not editing, that you were not as good as camera work, but that you were really drawn to editing. So first question is, why is it important to learn camera work in order to get better at editing? And then the second question is, what do you love about editing? So, but first question, why are you learning camera work?
I mean, I like to work with camera work because it gives you, this is pretty broad, but it gives you a base understanding of what to work with in the edit, and how to choose which scenes can fit where. Like I'm a fairly novice editor with the stuff that I put together. Because I haven't worked with too many short films, but that's why I'm, working on more projects so I can get better at that. But working with the camera and not just using the edit helps you understand stuff like color correction and color grading, which I'm still trying to get better at, because by using the camera and learning things like how to manipulate the aperture, the ISO, and the shutter speed, and how light gets broadcast through the camera allows you to fine-tune these controls when you're trying to grade the color in the edit. Sometimes it's not about the pacing of the edit when I specifically look to get better at camera work, though we can talk about that when it comes to choosing the right take. How long should you sit to capture an emotion? There's a lot in like people's eyes, but I've captured a lot of myself, and I'm not a good actor, so I feel like I don't feel qualified to talk about that. Though that's a whole other discussion.
But we also train camera because no matter what job you go into now, you're expected to know a little bit about camera work. If you pick up, say you start as an assistant editor or a junior editor somewhere, they're going to expect you to be able to work a camera if they need same day footage, or if they need some kind of a shot done and they don't have anyone else, they can send the new rookie kid out to get that footage while the rest of the team is working on whatever the edit is, and that's true for pretty much every digital media job now. You're expected to know at least like the big 5 Adobe programs, so Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, After Effects, and Premiere, just in case there is something that comes through the office that needs to get done. That this person can handle it.
Because you also understand what another person on your team may be going through, or you may have like some advice to give when it comes to, I mainly focus on this, but you could help me or I could help you if you do something a certain way.
That's great. So what do you love about editing? Why do you mention it?
Because it's just always been I've just always been drawn to it because people are able to stitch scenes together that just I can't just say look incredible, but people are able to really grab someone's attention, sometimes in a very captivating way in terms of the grandiose nature of when you're displaying like footage in a certain way. I guess I should really delve into why I say that. When you're working with footage, when you're trying to like cut beats to make the person watching feel something, you can just highlight actors' moments essentially. Like you could choose moments that capture emotions, and I think emotions are at the core of like why most people do what they do. Like why people choose to write about the things that they do is because they want to convey something to their audience. So by choosing the moments that best fit that, you can make something that really like it feels like it means something. I don't know if that.
So it sounds like you
gets the
really
point
love
across.
that aspect of visual storytelling.
Yeah,
So you really love choosing of 3 takes, choosing the best take, and then you love picking the exact moment to shift to another take.
that really clicks when you watch it. Like when you it's like you're trying to build a puzzle out of the footage that you have, and
So-
you find the right piece that fits.
So when you're looking at like 3 takes of exactly the same thing, like how do you choose which one is the right one?
Are you talking about like the technical like way, or I just feel it in my bones?
Yeah, it's an instinctual thing that every editor kind of picks up as they work. Because editing really is modern storytelling, right? A lot of people think the director's the storyteller of the production, but really they're just like the wrangler who keeps everyone on task.
Yeah.
And sure, they might have an overarching vision, but they work closely with the editor to make sure that that vision is accomplished, you know?
It's like there have been videos on studies like why do editors cut when they do, but it's something that you feel. It's like when you draw a painting, when artists paint, they feel the brushstroke. Like not all the you don't necessarily like analyze in your mind. Yes, this brushstroke is going in this specific place because XYZ. But no, you feel that it's the best way to place it there because it represents what you're trying to say. Because not everything can be communicated verbally, because you can really highlight someone's emotion or an idea based on how you cut it together.
So while you've been in this program, has your gut shifted? Like has your
Yes.
sense for how to cut from one thing to the next?
Yeah, because I think this goes back to camera work. When you're working in front of the camera rather than always behind the camera, you can get inside the headspace of the person acting. So you can learn how to communicate an idea with them so they can get in the right headspace of, okay, so I'm trying to say this in this scene, but I'm not just trying to read lines on the script like that are very monotone or plain, but how can I get in the right headspace to convey a certain emotion?
All right. So what's your favorite project that you've worked on since you've been here?
I think my favorite project is my magnum opus. It's okay, but I worked on this completely aside from everything we've been talking about. I just think when my Universal remote commercial has been the most polished thing that I've been proud of making because I was able to sink enough time into it.
Okay, so was this an assignment for class or was this something you did outside?
It was an assignment for class. I've done stuff outside of class, but I feel like this specific project was able. I was able to put enough time into it that I was really happy with the way it turned out.
So what were the parameters for the project?
It was a 30-second commercial for anything of our choosing. It could have been like a restaurant. It could have been like a product. But I had this in my brain. Like I remember having this universal remote controller that I had never figured out how to use, but I was so fascinated by you could just use one remote for anything in your house. So I went with that idea because it intrigued me, and I kind of based it off of that. I based the entire commercial off of that idea. And like the unity of like, oh, you can do so many things with just one thing. And I feel like you can do a lot of things with phones, but it's not as physical as like holding a controller and pointing at any screen and then saying like, oh, you can control all these screens with this one remote. So I thought that was just really interesting. So I went with that whenever we got the project assigned. Like I had it in my mind as soon as like the project was assigned. I was like, I could do this. So the inspiration just struck me at the time.
Awesome. And so you said you're really proud of it because you spent a lot of time on it. So what about it do you feel works? Or actually, can you just describe the commercial? What do you do? Like, what do we see?
So it starts with, it's generally someone getting frustrated over having all these remotes in their house because everyone knows the feeling like, oh, I have so many remotes. Which one do I use for which thing? And they become like frustrated. And then as they sort of are like sighing in their couch in frustration, I made it so that their sigh turns to static, and then the remote breaks through what was the screen, and it sort of smashes into them. And then that transforms into this montage of the remote being used in different ways, or it displays it in product shots, in people's hands, and used to control a TV. But it's sort of like the pacing. I'm glad with how I paced it out. Like we were saying before, like I liked how I made the edit. So with each shot, I felt it out. Like what would feel the most natural? Would I wipe the screen with a remote in this situation? Or would I cut to a matte shot of the remote being used in a different way? So that's sort of like the process that I went through in my mind. Like what would best represent this product in the way that would feel authentic to itself.
That's great. So did you storyboard it first and then film it? And did you run the filming as well?
Yeah, I filmed it almost entirely myself. I had my sister help me out with like a whip pan because I had to be holding the remote, but I wanted them to sort of help me with the tripod movement at the time because I couldn't do it all myself. I only have two hands. But yeah, I filmed it almost entirely myself. And I storyboarded it, as do most of my projects go, because
pre-visualization is important. We stress that in our program, and we try to make our students think critically about their shots before they go out and make them.
I mean, pre-visualization is great because I've worked on a bunch of projects that were like, we're just going to be organic. And when you're just organic, you end up with all of this video footage.
And no
and
direction.
You can use 2% of it. Yeah. And then the editor is like, good luck, bro.
Yeah, so from day one in our Intro to Digital Media class, we have students storyboarding, making shot lists, planning all of their shots before they go out with the camera. And Nikko can tell you we have tons of equipment for students to use from that first class all the way up through the end of the program. And the only limits, I guess, is how fancy the equipment is. The more expensive stuff we save for the end of the program when we know the students have a little more experience.
Yeah, because I was actually just in the lab today because I was checking out one of I forgot the brand name, but the Crane gimbal, because I just wanted to test it out because someone at Valencia Voice was wondering like how it works. So I just went over to check it out, and I literally just spent an hour trying to figure out how it works before this right now. So that's what I was doing. But going back to like pre-visualization for a second, like it also going back to the moment that struck me when the assignment was assigned, like I knew at that moment what I wanted to choose and how I would storyboard it in my head the second that the project was assigned. So like I was in class and I got home and they immediately started drawing the storyboards because I had already like seen it in my mind what they wanted to do. And that's kind of like why I like the project so much, is because like what I had in my mind, I was able to actually translate to the screen in a way. I think it's like the thing that I translated the most from my mind to screen faithfully. So
that sounds great. Congratulations.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, anytime you do a project and you get to the other side of the project and you're like, man, I learned something. I'm pleased with the result. Like that's the best you can ask for, really.
Yeah, it's always the best outcome because we've all been there where you do the project and it just falls flat and you're just so disappointed. And
Yeah.
to have the opposite happen where you're actually excited and proud of what you did, that's the best outcome for sure.
Right. Well, and you're proud of it. And also, like, you learned something. Like, because that means that you're, like, super aware of, like you're a better artist now because of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a double whammy. It's great.
I definitely felt that on that project. I was like putting together so many things I learned across like the program just to make that one 30-second commercial. Like I put so many hours into it because I had learned like so much across like the classes that I had taken to make it like the best it could be. So that's another reason why I liked it.
Nice. So let's back up. So where are you in your program of study? Are you at the beginning or are you at the end?
I'm near the end, actually. I'm taking 4 classes this semester. I have like 2 classes left over for next semester. So I'm near like pretty much the end of the program. So yeah, I think I'm getting to the point where I only just started getting to the point where I felt like confident enough to like maybe do this. Like, oh, maybe I can go out to this event and I can film it. And I know what resources I have, and I know what resources are best for each situation that I'm going to be using it for. Like, I know what I can shoot with my phone and what I can shoot with a DSLR, because phones are so good nowadays that sometimes it's more convenient to just shoot with your phone if you know how to manipulate the light on set and you know how to manipulate the lighting on your phone, because there's a lot of quote unquote pro settings on your phone that you can manipulate, like the ISO and the shutter speed, like a mirrored camera or a mirrorless camera for that matter. So you know which shots could be good on the DSLR or like your phone, for example. So, and I recently did something for one class. We have to work with like businesses and clients, and I recently did a project that kind of taught me more about like what I could do with what resources, because I checked out the gimbal, but I also realized that maybe it wasn't the best to use in that situation, and I went handheld for a lot of shots because I like the style of whip pans and how I can use my own 2 hands instead of a fancy piece of equipment to get the right shots instead. So that taught me a lot more, and that's something I just did a week or 2 ago. So I'm still learning like very late into the program about the best course of action to take when filming something.
Well, and what I love hearing you talk about, like everything you're saying is like, oh, I got to figure this out, and oh, I tried this and I didn't like it, so I tried something else, and oh, I got to play with this cool piece of gear, but then I decided I wanted a different piece of gear, or I didn't even want the gear, I just wanted to do the thing. And so, like, I love what I am really enjoying hearing you talk through is like this entire creative troubleshooting process. Right?
Yeah, it is a process, definitely, because it's trial and error. And I feel like not everyone has the patience to trial and error. But if it's something that you're interested in, it doesn't feel that way. Like, it doesn't feel like I'm taking, like, 5 steps forward, but 2 steps back, because that's part of the process. And it doesn't feel like a process because it's interesting to me. And that's what I like doing. So I just like it.
Well, that's awesome. And Dominic, can you talk a little bit about how this process applies to the real world work?
Yeah, so when you're on a job, nothing's ever going to go according to plan, and equipment is going to fail, or you break in the moment or whatever, and you have to just kind of figure it out and finish the shoot. So while we don't set up those scenarios in the class, it's definitely things still happen when we're working in class. It can be anything from, oh, this file's corrupted, so I've lost an hour of work, to the camera won't turn on. What do we do now? So we try to give our students enough skill that they can trust their knowledge and adapt, on the fly and figure stuff out, make it work. We also believe in redundancy, so we make sure that we always have lots of memory cards, lots of batteries, a backup camera, a backup microphone, because there are things that you'll go out and try to capture that that's only going to happen once. So you need to make sure you are prepared. And a really good example of this is wedding videography. A lot of our students do weddings when they're out of school because it's a pretty good income source, and a pretty, recession-proof industry. Like, people are always going to get married. But if your camera dies right when the bride's walking down the aisle, that's pretty much the worst thing that could happen, So it's good to be prepared for that and know how to, adapt and make it work.
That's great. So it sounds like you're learning those real world skills in the classroom.
Yes.
Well, and way better to figure that out in class than to figure it out on that wedding gig.
Yeah, because you've got your professor there, and you can say, "Hey, what's I don't know. I broke the camera. Please help me." And the professor will go over and fix everything for you to the best of their ability.
That's awesome. So what are you? So what classes have you taken so far in digital media?
I've taken a lot of classes. A lot. I mean, right now I'm taking digital media project, post-production, and advanced visual storytelling. But I've taken stuff like intro to no, I haven't taken that yet. That's the one class. That's the one class I haven't taken. So it's in my mind because it's something I want to do. But I've taken the intro to digital media and design. I've taken digital video and sound, advanced digital video and sound, digital storytelling. There's so many. I can't even think of all of them off the top of my head because I'm just trying to think of the ones in my major.
So have you taken classes beyond your major?
Yes, because I didn't even decide the pathway that I wanted until maybe 1 or 2 semesters in, which is why I have leftover classes to take next semesters because I took some that didn't pertain to my specific degree. So I'm finishing like a semester later, but I've taken a few English classes, business and marketing classes, psychology, and a few more. It's just a lot to like bring up off the top of my head.
So in the video production track in our AS degree program, we have 2 marketing classes and a business class to get students prepared to have their own business and freelance. In our motion graphics track, they take vector illustration and another intro to typography, which are both graphic design classes. We have a couple film classes students can take as electives. We have a lot of students that complete our AS degree and then go on to earn the AS degree in graphic design or film. So there's a lot of collaboration between the departments, and we're kind of somewhere in the middle between film and graphic design. A lot of our students come in now, they want to be content creators for TikTok and YouTube and Twitch and all that. So we fill a lot of gaps because the students that go to UCF want to do game design, and we don't really have any game design at Valencia, but we can give you this foundational skills to go to UCF and complete that degree if you want to. So, yeah.
That's great. Well, and so what's that class that you're really excited about that you're going to take next semester?
Oh, it's an elective. It's Intro to Motion Graphics. At least for my pathway, it's an elective. But I was also looking to get another associate's degree in motion design or motion graphics because that's part of the editing pipeline. That's something that I'm really interested in myself rather than something like the film program, which is its own other thing. Because I went into the soundstage one day in the full production. It was just really impressive because they were constructing a whole set in the other room while I had class like down the hall. It was just really impressive seeing like what they were doing because they built an entire set. They have an entire crew. And they're just filming an actual like highly produced short film. So that was just, it was a little overwhelming because at the time, like I've done my own small scale stuff, but seeing like a full production was very, it just felt insurmountable. Like I couldn't go there for my specific interests because I just want to work in another area. That being like editing, motion design. That's something that I'm more interested in. So seeing all those people work in like cogs in the machine to make something work was just so impressive. I couldn't fathom me doing it.
And that's a great example of the difference between the film program here and the digital media program, where the film program is focused on long form production like movies, TV pilot episodes, short films, and the digital media program is more short form video content like commercials, weddings, stuff for the internet, YouTube, all that kind of stuff.
So when you say short form, you're not talking about like a 10-minute film versus a 2-hour film, you're talking about 30 seconds versus.
Yeah, I would say most of our projects in digital media cap out around 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And in the film program, that's like the bare minimum for their productions, you know?
Because I feel like the remote commercial I was talking about, that's like on the shorter end, but it was very dense, which is why I liked working on it, because I had the time to work on it for the length that it was. But I've had my fair share of like longer projects that I've worked on for video production as well.
To give you an example, in the motion graphics classes, we might do 5 to 10 second animations for social media. And then in the video production classes, they'll do 30-second to a minute long commercials, or they might do like 2 to 3 minute short films, or like lecture videos for classes and like speaking events and stuff like that. We've done the longest things we do are recording the productions on campus, like the band concerts and theater productions and dance stuff, like all that stuff.
And that's a lot of just live capture.
Yeah, so we have a whole class dedicated to that, and the students that really enjoy that work go on to work in the theme parks and the cruise ships and pursue that as a career.
Oh, how interesting.
I've also taken that class. That's not even the class I mentioned, but yeah, no, I did take that class where you're essentially, we asked like what the people on stage were looking to capture, and then we sort of captured those moments for them in the way that they want it. Sometimes like they just wanted like a blanket master shot of like the entire project that they were doing on stage. So that's sort of like what we did. But there were other projects where they were more involved. But yeah, I've also taken.
And the way that class works is the professor acts as the production manager, and the students break up into groups. Basically, 3 students will be on camera, 1 student will be on communication to make sure everyone understands. Another student will be on the switcher to make sure the cameras can communicate. And then, like Nikko said, you work with whatever the event is to capture their vision.
That's great. And that's really a lot of teamwork right there.
It is. And it's also one of our advanced classes. Students usually don't take it until their 3rd or 4th semester, which would be in their 2nd year of study.
Okay. That's great. So Nikko, what's next for you? So how do you imagine you will take these skills and continue in your life?
For now, I'm really just focused on my education because I have I have a few more semesters because I'm looking to get another degree here. I'm not going to just get the singular associates, but I see myself being maybe someone who works with clients to film and edit projects for businesses. I've already done that just once, but I've been in contact. I've been trying to get in contact with another business to make something for them, but maybe just reaching out to businesses, working on projects for them. I don't have any concrete plans laid out, but I'm going to work on that further as I enhance my skill set with what I can do and learn more about how to film and edit things.
Great. And so did you say what degree you want to pursue next?
Right now I'm pursuing video production, but I'm going to be pursuing motion graphics.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So motion graphics next. So right now you're just education.
Yes.
Now, do you plan to go to UCF at all, or do you want to stay here at Valencia?
No, I actually plan to stay at Valencia for my entire higher education for now. Just getting the 2 degrees here.
And as far as I know, UCF does not offer a motion graphics pathway.
Really?
They have a graphic design specialization, which I'm sure includes a little bit of motion design. And then they have a classic film degree, like a BFA.
Now, they don't have animation?
They do have animation, but it's character animation and experimental animation, which are different than motion design. Think of motion design like a commercial animator, where you're animating for TV, YouTube commercials. Like you're selling a product or making money with your animation, if that makes sense. And then character animation is like traditional Pixar 3D characters for movies and TV shows. And experimental animation would be like fine art animation that you would see at a film festival or in an art gallery.
So what is the difference in process there?
The actual animation,
because in my head, animation is animation.
Exactly. So the nuts and bolts, like I'm sitting at the computer, clicking buttons. It's all pretty much the same. but the end result or the product that you're making is different when you're working in a commercial space, right? Because you're usually, when you're working as a motion designer, you're part of the creative team. So you'll have your creative director or art director who's your boss. Then you'll have a graphic designer, maybe a video editor or video production person. The job titles get kind of vague sometimes. And then there's the motion designer who just does the animation. And then you may have a social media person that you're working with. So there could be anywhere from like 5 to 10 people that all work as an in-house team and do all of the social media and commercial content for a place like Bang Energy, where one of our students is. We have another person who graduated recently who works for a travel tour company. So they get to go on some of the travel tours and shoot all the video and make like the trailers and commercials to promote that. We have somebody who does all of the 3D work and motion graphics for the Neighbors app, which is kind of like Airbnb for your garage, where it's like self-storage. Yeah. And then we have people that are just freelancing and going to local businesses and saying, hey, I can make a commercial for you that includes an animated logo and some behind the scenes shot of your business that you can use to sell your services online, So it's when I say you can do whatever you want with the degree, you really can, as long as it involves creating things for the internet. You can find a way to pursue it.
That's really exciting. So, I mean, do you have any idea of where that goes for you?
I mean, I kind of said it before, but just working on projects for businesses, video projects preferably, where I can edit. That's pretty simple, but my outlook right now is to work with what the client wants so I can help them bring that vision to life. So it depends on the person I'm working with. But
so you are not wanting to necessarily realize your own stories, but you are really excited about helping others realize their stories.
Yeah.
That's really wonderful.
Because for me, I've been told like I'm a good writer, but I find it hard to convey what I'm feeling onto a page or onto camera, though it is it's therapeutic, but it's not something that I plan to do.
Can you talk about your experience with the portfolio review class and how you spoke with the industry pros? You've taken that class, right?
No, I have. That's one of my 2 classes I haven't taken yet.
So I thought you'd taken it already because you're doing your internship.
Yes.
So Rebecca, we have a portfolio review class, which is our capstone course in the program. Students usually take it in their last semester or second to last semester. We spend the whole class developing a brand package, a demo reel website, so students can go out and promote themselves. And then at the end of the term, we have industry professionals that are local to Orlando come in and talk to the students, review their work, basically tell them if they have the chops to cut it in the industry. And we have people from Disney, from Universal. We have freelancers that live in the area. It's a really good group of industry pros that care about the students and want to see them succeed. I have some people from New York City, and they tend to be a little harsh. I've had some New York motion designers tell students, like, hey, you can't cut it here yet. Like, you need more work. And then we've had, obviously, the opposite happen where students have been hired for jobs directly from the class. So it's one of my favorite classes to teach, and it really gives the students perspective as they're getting ready to leave us and try to make it in the industry.
So it really sounds like you take students from knowing nothing to setting them up with the potential to have a job.
Yeah, I mean, we try to give them all the skills they need and prepare them as much as we can to succeed in the industry and go out and be successful. And, everyone has a different definition of what that is. But for me, it's either steady freelance work where they're working on projects or a more traditional office job where they're in-house somewhere working as an editor or a motion designer or videographer.
That's fantastic. Okay, so we've got, and I am so sorry, guys, my voice is fading. But I've got some questions that'll keep these guys talking. We're trying to ask regular questions at the end of every show now, so this is a newer thing. So both of you, fill in the blank. creativity is?
I'm going first.
Yeah, you go first.
I mean, I feel like you can go
All
first.
right, I'm going to say creativity is harder than people think. Like if you have someone that's in like a business degree or a sales job, they tend to discredit people in a creative field because they think, oh, anyone can do that, right? Like you walk into an art gallery or you watch a show and you think, oh, I could do that. Anyone could do that. And then when you actually try to sit down and do that thing, you realize, no, this is difficult, and these people have honed their skills to be able to do this work.
I like it. How about you, Nikko?
Mine kind of branches off of that a little bit, but I would say creativity is what drives humans or drives everyone, because I feel like everyone's thriving off of someone else's creativity, whether that be watching a movie, playing a game, reading a book, watching a commercial, or it's part of what grabs your attention. I mean, everyone's talking about like how social media is about grabbing someone's attention, but someone's creativity is at the heart of that attention, hopefully.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, I know there's a lot of stuff with AI going on. That's kind of detrimental to the whole point that I'm trying to make, but creativity is what makes humans passionate about what they do at the end of the day, I feel like.
Well, even the AI is trained on real
Human
people,
creativity.
so, yeah.
Absolutely. So next question, what motivates you the most?
You go first this time.
I go first this time?
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out. I think being able to display my creativity. I want to get good enough to be able to display it in a very impactful way. I think I'm motivated by wanting to get good enough to display what's in my head on a screen or on the page, I guess. That's what motivates me, is getting good enough to do that.
So you've got things in your head and you are motivated by all of the skills that you're learning that seem to be getting you closer and closer to that ideal.
Yes. Basically,
Nice.
like learning to communicate through another medium. That's what motivates me.
That's great.
Awesome.
For me, it's helping people. It's I didn't always see myself in education. I started out in a creative degree and thought I would be working in the industry, but I have a knack for it, and I really enjoy teaching and watching students grow from day one, don't know how to do anything, to I graduated and I got a job, professor, and it's all because of you. Well, that's what they say, but it's really because of their hard work. So,
But it still feels good.
it's good to watch them grow and gain confidence.
All right, next question. In 1 to 3 sentences, describe your favorite project. Now, Nikko, you've kind of done this already.
Yeah.
So this one's on you.
Oh, I'm so busy. I haven't had a lot of time for personal work lately.
Well, it could be favorite project ever.
So I'll do a little bit of a cop out here. My favorite project to teach is the Exquisite Corpse that we were doing in the motion graphics classes for a while. For anyone that doesn't know, an exquisite corpse is when a group of artists work on one thematic project in increments. So you say for an animation, we'll set a 1 minute animation that we're going to do, and each artist is going to do 10 seconds of that minute, right? And then everyone gets to work on that overall theme. Like the theme can be anything from walking down the street to time travel to whatever. And when we did this in class, we would come up with a theme as a group. Each student would choose their time code. Like someone would say, I'm going to do 25 seconds to 35 seconds, right? And then we would pick a theme song that would act as our background music, and everyone would get like 3 weeks to animate their snippet of their animation. And the students who were handing the animation off to each other would have to figure out what their transition was going to be, right? So if somebody says, I'm going to do a tree that grows from a seed into a big tree, and then the next student is going to do like a dog playing fetch, how do you make those two snippets work together visually in time? So it was a really fun project. We only got to do it for a few semesters. before COVID, and then everything changed. But I would eventually like to start doing it again in class.
That sounds like a beautiful project.
It is. It's cool. I'll send you the link.
Yeah. And then I love, personally, I always love, there's that element of randomization.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you pair things together in that randomized way, how your brain makes it work. Like as humans, we really try to go, we try to make that connection.
Yeah.
And that's always really exciting to me to be like, I don't know, I rolled the dice and I put, there's a dog over here and there's a carrot over there. And all of a sudden, of course they love each other.
I mean, that sounds like really interesting because it sounds like improv, but for like artists.
Yeah, it's basically what it boils down to. And there's all kinds of great examples online. If you Google like animated exquisite corpse, people have done it in traditional media as well. So sketchbooks are really popular. But yeah, it's a really fun way to make something without all the pressure of having this, giant project, because you're just kind of riffing off whoever's in front of you or behind you,
Yeah, that's great. Okay, next question. What is the best or worst advice you ever received regarding your creative field? The best or worst. So that could be with film, could be digital media, could be digital photography.
The best advice I ever got was take advantage of everything your school offers, which most of the time, whether it's Valencia or somewhere else, if you're in a production-based degree, there's going to be an equipment lab or an equipment cage where you can check out stuff that usually you cannot afford. This is true for Valencia. We just updated all of our equipment in our lab, and we have some really nice stuff in there right now. And I still see students who go through the whole program and have never checked equipment out from our lab, which always surprises me. And I did take advantage of this when I was in college and used as much equipment as I could and felt like it gave me a more well-rounded skill set. So I'm glad that I did that.
I 100% agree with that because I didn't check out anything for like the first year. And once I started actually checking things out and experimenting with stuff, it really gives you a full understanding of what you could do. Like what I was saying before, like I checked out the gimbal, but I realized I could use my phone to get the right movements. I'm not necessarily saying that, you can use what you have, but I'm saying I wouldn't have known that I would have preferred something a certain way if I hadn't tried it. But I was also trying a different type of gimbal today. And now I have shots in mind that I can use with that gimbal instead of another gimbal that I was using.
And for anyone that doesn't know, a gimbal is a handheld stabilizer. Think of it like a tripod without the legs. So you just hold the camera and the gimbal stabilizes it so you get really smooth footage.
But there's many different types of gimbals to be used in many different types of scenarios for the shot that you're trying to film. And I guess what the point that I'm trying to get home is that you don't know how to use things unless you try them. And by using like the resources here, it's gotten me more comfortable with what I have and what I could use in the future.
And what I hear you saying is like, this tool gave me a new idea. And then this tool gave me a new idea. And so you're actually finding creative stimulus from the tools that you have available.
Definitely.
Nice. Okay, next question. What is one warning sign you watch for when considering taking on a project? Like, is there anything where you're like, oh, buddy, they said that. Run away, run away.
When someone doesn't know how to articulate what they want, but they're also asking you to do a project for them, then you don't know what you want. How am I supposed to help you?
A really big one that students run into is I'll pay you an exposure. Of course, everyone has to do 1 or 2 projects for free when they're first starting out to help build their portfolio, but we try to encourage students to get paid, even if it's only $100 or $200 for their first job, at least so that they can say, I got paid to do this thing, and of course we try to get them the best rate we can. If faculty are involved, usually we're just advisors and the students have to advocate for themselves, but every now and then someone will approach the college and say, hey, I have this paid job. Please let the students know, and I'll look at demo reels and resumes and make their choice. So, yeah.
That's great. Okay. So how do you, and you right now are doing this, Nikko. So this is more towards Dominic, but how do you stay current in your practice? Like routines, observation, practice classes?
So social media is really good for this, as a lot of people don't like to say that. But there are a lot of really innovative creators that are working for TikTok or YouTube or Instagram Reels that are making really visually impactful media. And there's also tons of like tips and tricks videos, and every year Adobe's putting out more content and tutorials to use their new tools. So it's actually a lot easier to stay current now than when I first started 10, 15 years ago, For me, the hardest thing is finding time to actually work on a project for myself.
Right. Well, and really take the time to absorb the tips that you're watching. Yeah. Okay. So you're creatively blocked, but the deadline is real. How do you get unstuck?
I sit down at my desk and go, I gotta figure this out, or I try to get out of the same environment that I've been. Like if I'm at home at my desk all the time, sometimes I just sit outside here on campus, and that helps me ideate. And try to create new ideas by walking around campus. It helps a lot. Just by going on a walk outside.
The Pomodoro method works really well for me. So 20 minutes on, 5 to 10 minutes off. Even if it's just go outside and look at the sun, or go downstairs and get a snack if I'm working at home. Having that dedicated, like, okay, I'm going to focus for this very small amount of time, and then I'm going to take a break, and then it helps, instead of just, I need to sit down and do this, and there's no structure.
Yeah. Well, and there's a level of keeping a promise to yourself in that. Like, I promise that I will focus for 20 minutes, and then I promise that I will give myself a break for 20 minutes, or not 20 minutes, for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
For me, it's hard to make that promise to myself, which is why getting out of my environment really helps. Because I could say, I gotta sit at my desk and get this done, but that doesn't help. Getting out of your environment, getting out of that mindset really, I think, helps you. It helps get your brain going.
Yeah,
I feel like
music helps me focus too. Like I have a lot of music for background noise while I'm grading, which is really good to help focus with that.
Awesome. Okay, last question. In one sentence, what does being an artist mean to you? One sentence.
Okay, so I have... Okay, sure. For me, being an artist is actively looking at the world around you.
For me, being an artist, it's learning how to communicate in a way that isn't typical, or it's learning how to communicate ideas by reaching out to people emotionally.
I love those answers. And just a background on that question, I studied acting for years and years, and it took me till my second year of second grad school to actually call myself an artist, because it felt like a bad word. So now I really value that idea of, okay, so if we're going to be artists, what does this mean? And why is it important? So thank you for taking a moment to define that for me. And what I really love is that everybody's answer is always different. So do you guys consider yourselves artists?
I don't think I'm there yet.
So this is a common thing with digital media, our program as a whole, because it's so commercially focused. It's hard for people to embrace this idea that they are artists and there is a creative discipline and creative practice. I can say that I'm an artist because I've gone through multiple art degrees and I've shown in art galleries and all that stuff. But when I was younger, it was hard for me to embrace this idea.
Yeah. And that's why I asked the question, because it took me two grad degrees.
Yeah, it's a tough thing
to actually think of myself as that.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. All right. So thank you for listening with my my poor sad voice. But hopefully you got some reprieve with the fabulous Dominic DiPaolo and Nikko. So I hope you got some insight into the digital media program here at Valencia College. And I hope you got some insight into what it means to be a student here, because a lot of times we can talk to faculty. And faculty will tell you all about the programs they've crafted. But just because we tell you what we've crafted, it doesn't mean that we know what it is to live through it. And so thank you so much for giving us insight into what it means to be a student. And before we started this, I told Nikko, you're going to represent all students. And that was really, he's shaking his head right now. It's really overwhelming. But one of the things that I truly believe is that through specificity, we actually are able to generalize experiences. So Nikko, thank you for giving us your very specific experience.
I mean,
So-
it's no problem, really.
So that we can generalize for ourselves. Because we know that every experience is going to be different and unique. And that's the beauty, right? So thank you for joining us on Embracing the Bold, and we hope to see you next week.